Scratches, especially cat scratches, are a very common occurrence on leather. It can be fixed relatively easily with the right tools. If they are light scratches, a conditioner or recoloring balm might be all that's needed. For deeper scratches, filling, then coloring usually works best. Let's check out each method and the tools needed for them. Conditioner or recoloring. Some leather scratches can be repaired by a simple rearrangement of the oils on the surface. For example, if it's an untreated leather, like this, or without any kind of a paint on the surface, these scratches might just need a little bit of conditioning. This can be done by taking a quality leather conditioner and just massaging it into the fibers, more evenly redistributing the oils and conditioning agents among the leather itself. And in some cases, this can make scratches less noticeable, and if they're light, it may even make them totally gone. There are also some leather recoloring balms that can handle the more scratch-filled end of this spectrum, when filling is not needed. So generally, when we're looking at scratches, we want to see if or how much material has been removed. In this example, we see a pretty deep groove. So if we were just to paint over it, you'd still see a bit of an indentation in there. So this is likely going to need filling. When we have lighter scratches, where maybe there are marks but material hasn't been significantly removed, we basically just want to cover up these surface marks and press any leather around it back down so it's as even as possible. So when we're looking at just filling in light scratches, one option can be a leather recoloring balm. And this is essentially a composition that will go in, kind of fill in those scratches, match and blend the color, and then we'll wipe that off, and it will essentially have those scratches covered. Most often, you can choose a color that's closest to your leather, and some can even be blended. For example, here's a very popular filler kit. And inside, we get a lot of variations of fillers and colors. So the idea here is that you could either find a color that's matching your leather precisely, or you could blend these pre-mixed fillers to find a color that's more close to your leather. And with those, you'll be able to fill in those scratches, and then as you wipe them off and it dries, it should result in a relatively smooth surface that matches as closely as possible the original look and feel of that leather. So these could be great if you're not looking to purchase a lot of volume of a certain color and you're looking to match a more specific color that you're trying to fix. It's also going to dry relatively flexible, which can be great for most items as they flex and move during daily use. Another option we have are more dedicated fillers. And those are going to be good when you've got deep cuts or scratches that go deeper than just the surface. So while we're going to fix this lighter scratch sample here, I'll show you a little bit around what would do if they were deeper. For that, we're going to get something called a repair filler. And there are a few kinds out there, and they're essentially a paintable compound that will dry flexible. And so we could use that to fill in the area that has been removed. And once we do that and prepare it, it's going to fill in that material that was lost from the scratch. Then, with a smooth surface, we can recolor it to match the leather material around it and make it look as good as new. Since this is a little bit more of an involved process, it's reserved mostly when you really do have to fill these gaps. As when you're doing that, we're often going to use a tool to dry that filler once it's applied, and that will help cure it, and then we could go on to sanding and painting. And so that can take a little more time, and because of that, there's more steps involved. For example, once that filler is in place, we generally apply heat, such as like this from a heating device. That will help cure and set the filler compound. And then once it's dry, we could sand it until it's even with the surface, and then paint it to match that surface color. So it is more involved, although if you do have a deeper cut, it is absolutely possible to fill it and match the rest of the area around it. All right, let's look at an example of fixing these scratches. So first thing is we will get our scratch material. And for this, between our options of a conditioner, these are going to be a little bit too deep for a conditioner. So we're going to pass on that. It's the easiest one. The next is going to be our Recoloring Balm. This has a bit of a filler kind of compound to it in the color already. And for lighter scratches, this is going to be the next easiest option that will fill them. So we're going to go with that. If we did have deeper scratches, we would then move up to our dedicated filler compound that requires application, drying, sanding, then painting. So we have our Recoloring Balm. So what we'll do is we'll read the instructions first, essentially pre-test, which is always a good idea, and then rub into the leather and wait 10 minutes, then buff with a clean cloth. Apply additional coats to achieve a darker color. And once you're happy, you can apply leather protection on top of it. All right, it seems easy enough. So what I'll do is I'll get this mat here to cover our workspace. We'll put down our sample piece, and I'll get a cloth to apply it with. And we're going to use a soft cotton cloth. It's going to be good because it will absorb some of the balm, so we could apply it. It's also going to be relatively lint-free, so it won't leave much behind. And on top of that, it'll be soft, so it won't scratch the leather as we're fixing it. Because it would be a bummer if while we're fixing one scratch, we're putting another one in. So this is going to be generally a good option to apply most things onto your leather. So with that, we will open up the Recoloring Balm. It's very dense-like consistency. Kind of see that? It doesn't really drip too much. Just kind of sits there. It's almost like a gel or a jelly. Then what we'll do is we'll get a little bit on our rag. Like that. We don't want too much yet. We could always add more. And then I'll kind of flatten this out a little bit so it's not too concentrated. And you could always consider wearing gloves as well for any cleaning or repair applications to keep your hands in good shape as well. I'm going to try to be real careful. We'll see how that goes. All right, so here we'll apply it onto our sample. We can see already, even just with a little bit of applying, it's already filling in those gaps and it's kind of blending that color. So what we're going to do is we kind of have that in there. We want to put enough in that it's going to fill any light scratches, but not so much that we have it everywhere. But since we can wipe it off, I'm just going to give it a second light application as well to make sure we have those areas filled. All right. Cool. And the fingers look clean so far. Now that I said that, watch out. All right. So we've got our sample piece here and we have the balm applied. So what we're going to do is wait the recommended 10 minutes. Then we're going to wipe it off and see how we're looking. All right, so we've given it that 10 minutes to dry, and you can see the color looks a little different, more a little matte. So what we'll do is we'll get our cloth as suggested, and we will try to buff this and see how it goes. You can even see it's already getting a little shiny where we're buffing it. The little color's coming off. All right. So if you look there, the scratches are now still visible, but the coloring inside is filled in. So we've got that. So now they're going to be less noticeable, especially from a distance and depending on the light. Like we have some, very direct, bright lighting. So even in here, you could see some color difference between the balm that we put on and the paint that we have prior to it around there. So even two different color blacks. And we've got, the scratches are filled though, so keep that in mind. You know, if you're looking for an exact match, then you may have to tinker with the coloring a little bit. And though depending on what you're trying to do, this may be an easy quick fix, because if you look in different light, you barely see the color difference. So yeah, I could still feel some minor scratching in there. So as they recommend, you know, we could put on additional coats to make it a little bit thicker and a little bit darker. And for lighter scratches, especially on large areas of furniture or things like that, this could be a really easy, quick fix. And for smaller areas, you know, this is clearly a sample, though if your scratch is a very small area, you can consider something like an acrylic paint. The acrylic paint will dry flexible and does have some body to it. So while it's not going to be a structural material, it can also be an easy way to essentially paint on your filler that will go over your scratches. It likely will not buff out as simply or as easily as the Recoloring Balm, so keep that in mind, though it is another tool that you can explore. So overall, for a low level of complexity and a short amount of time, those scratches are not nearly as visible. If we're looking for a more significant repair, there are certainly options for that, though for here, we're demonstrating simply the Recoloring Balm. So there's really only a few tools needed, and scratch repair can go pretty easily and pretty quickly. If you have any questions, let us know. If you have experience with this that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear about it. And there you have it. Until next time.